Good evening, folks. I'm Tassinix, and this is the very first episode of our new series here with my very special guests, Dagger and TJ. It's called Plottin' and Schemin', and this is going to be basically a redux of what the three of us pretty much do most rounds for most weeks of a season. We usually workshop a lot together, so we figured this would be a great source of content. And I figured the best way to get everybody introduced would be just to, say who they are and then talk just briefly about how their week went. So right now, where we're coming at you from is season 40. This is 3 versus 3. End of week 1. We're just in the lock-in period now, going into week 2. So anyway, we got Dagger and TJ here. Dagger up first. How you doing, man? Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I am in Rhodium, your little brother guild, and I won 31 right now, I think. I was 12 at the end of this round and went 2-1.
Nice.
Yeah, 2-1.
Nice. All right, so yeah, he's around the top 30 here. And Dagger famously doesn't even like 3 versus 3. But yeah, he was in a good position at the end of 5s, and going 2-1 in the first week won't do you too poorly. But all right. So TJ, what's the word?
Oh, hey yo, and thanks for having me, Tass. So horrible week, as you might expect in threes, and I'll take it as that. There's other words to use, but that's probably on a Twitch stream more than it is on a YouTube one. So 0-3, and the first time in a long time. Now back in the 200s, but I was 22 starting the season. So I got to learn a lot, test a lot, and see a lot. So fun, yeah. Fun in the quotation marks that it was like torture and anything you don't want to experience ever where you're going to throw your phone. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. I too got brooded. So, this week I started somewhere around rank 100, and then I lost the first round, won the second round, and then lost the third round. The third round here was, both the second and the third round were me trying stuff to see that I thought it should work. And in a couple cases, it almost did, but mostly it didn't. And that's why we were 1 and 2 on the week. So I'm somewhere around, I got to be somewhere around like 140, something like that. That's what my guess is, 130, 140, something like that. So I'm going to be just, hopefully, just absolutely crushing the next week. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I too learned some things, tested some things, and that actually neatly brings us into the next segment here, is things that unexpectedly did work, and then things that you expected to work that did not work at all. So I think let's start with the not work at alls. Things that did not work at all for me was Starkiller against Array, Swolo, and Cal. And the Cal was like Relic 5. It wasn't the hugest in the world. It was a situation where my entire team was full except EP, who had about 30% protection and full life. And it was basically the only thing I could have done differently would have been to pull down the ship and just completely burn all the damage because Ray and Ben were both in DI. It just felt bad. And yeah, EP ended up taking 1-2 whirlwinds to the face. And it was good that we got Ben out of the way. And it was cleanable, but it was cleanable by JMK, so I should have just done that in the first place. I think here, unless it's looking extra super vulnerable, maybe a Hoda, maybe a Holdo, maybe a lower level RJT. Maybe I'll attempt Starkiller again, but for the time being, it's going to be something quote unquote more serious. How about you guys? feel free to jump in, guys. I'm sure we'll find our cadence with how we want to play off each other.
Yeah, outside of Fleet, all the drops I had, me being a dum-dum, will keep this G-rated.
It's better for the tubes.
Yeah, pretty much everything that went wrong for me outside of Fleet was just I would do I made a mistake or just long diagrams. I didn't have a datacron.
Ooh, yeah, gruesome. Do you have at least one specific matchup that came to mind that wasn't really like a dum dum, but it was like you expected this to work and then it did not work?
Afra is terrible banners on offense. Absolutely awful banners on offense.
Yeah, it is as we thought. The lack of the bonus turn is painful.
She still does kill a lot. She didn't lose a single fight for me. Malik, a mirror, right? But man, 52 to 53 banners is just not okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, Fleet's where the dum dums happen, where it's like Nego loses the triple attacker, dumb stuff like that, where it's like RNG gets you.
Oh man,
goes seriously wrong, and I'll talk more about that in the conclusion.
Oh yeah, well we'll get there.
The testing you guys got to do.
Oh sure, for sure. Yeah, TJ, any thoughts on things that absolutely didn't work?
So many.
The things that you expected to work, though, not crazy experimental.
That I know, right? That I won't do again, right? That no shot at going back into. There was a lot that I had to play around with, but round one, step one, LV, Ray, Cal, and Swallow are just absolute no-nos. That was my very first one where it was like, it's a hard stance that you cannot take LV right now as is, even with that protection up Datacron against Cal. It's just a waste of time, and it's 5 minutes for a loss. So save yourself. Don't do it. That is a 100%. What is it, Dagger? Dum-dum. We'll keep it there. The other one, Riva and Trio. Where Trio might have been something else. It's again, and a lot of people are going to see it more, and I'll start talking about it too. And I know Dagger will definitely concur on this. The 100% damage on Riva.
Oh my God!
Trio,
yes.
Basically, what you look at is about the first minute, and then all of a sudden your team's not there, and you have to ask somebody: did they just go missing? Did they quit? Did the game break? So those were my two. I'm gonna give two specifics that I learned, not the easy way, unfortunately.
I mean, you really got a good one there. The Treya was a really painful thing to learn the hard way. That, man, they figured out that bug. Let me tell you, because Treya got that death mark, and that was it. So what I ended up doing in round 3 in a situation where I needed to use Trio to kill Riva, I did a cooldown pull. So at least I pulled GI's Torture and AoE, and the AoE from Riva, and still lost Treya before Nihilus got to do the delete. Still managed to kill one of the other Inquisitors and had to clean up 8th Brother. I mean, it was just nasty bit of business. Oh, all right. What worked, guys? What worked? What was... now, we're not trying to part with all the secret sauce, and we'll tell you guys that up front. But we're all willing to part with a little something. And there were a couple... Everybody had some interesting lessons learned.
Trench and Hondo overperformed all week.
Okay. Yeah, you have any specific matchups that you'd like to cover?
Well, first off, though, the Trench team is such a modular team. I know Tassin can talk about he did the Trench too, I think.
Sure, yeah.
But I had the displeasure, I'll put it that way, fighting Trench Dooku Newt, or Trench Django Newt on defense. And that was, just a 4-minute fight. It was, so that team is way better than it looks on. I went against. I think I told someone it was like JKRG and blind. I'm like, oh, this shouldn't be too hard. And it wasn't like the hardest fight ever, but man, they just don't die.
What did they have the trench cron? What was the Datacron setup?
Yeah, it was the trench level.
Full nasty, man.
Yeah, I it's tough because you're breaking up Newt Django B1, which is one of my favorite offense teams.
Yeah.
And again, we'll talk more about that in the conclusion. I love these teams that get max banners. I love those teams. Another team that actually surprised me how effective it was IG-11, Quio, and Hondo. Just you can max banner anything from Raditz to I'll call them bad Malgus comps, but it's the comps that don't have DR or BSF. So if they do
Either.
Split. Yeah. If they do the DR BSF Savage split, you can beat the Malgus team. I've also seen people use it to beat like Savage teams. You can set like XY Savage, like or Savage Malik Zeris. I watched somebody beat that with a relatively cheap Hondo team. So those are the two that really stood out. Again, I'll touch on what I said. What didn't work. I mean, Afra still won every fight that I took her against, which was a little surprising. So I wasn't sure how good she was about the Datacron. But BT1 is as advertised. That dude hits like a truck.
Yes.
And while it is bad banners, I've been saving the Chupio-Cron for offense, and boy, howdy does that beat everything.
Yeah? Yeah, you know what? I only saved it for offense once this week, but preach on it. Let's hear.
Well, I personally used it to beat an Afra for max banners, so it wasn't like I did anything like super fancy with it. Other than that, it was just like, what else did I dumpster? I have to look at my history, but it was like a decent-ish team. It was, it was the Zori Cron.
Ooh, yeah, that's very nice. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I know Fatal's used it in the past and, of course, here with the Cron to beat Gas. I haven't tried that yet myself, but I know it's out there.
Yeah. So I won't extol too many teams' virtues. The good teams are good and the bad teams are bad, right, for the most part. But the Steel S team has been such a mainstay on defense, where I think it's interesting to talk about its application on offense. I'll kind of leave it at that. You guys
Fair
talk
enough.
More about what they tested, because they did way more testing than I did, so they probably have way more to talk about.
Yeah, it's true, but always guess first, TJ. What worked?
So a lot of stuff did here's and theirs and became situational, right? Because no two teams were the same. I'm gonna give Dagger Elite props for this one because he suggested it, and I was at a point where I knew I was gonna lose, so why not go for it? And it's Wampa versus Zori. That was probably my biggest shocker, seeing something like that and not being modded to the nines, right? Relic 9 or something like that. You need to respect the Zori team, but Wampa versus Zori is a huge thing. And the only reason I even say it is because it's going to be in the history. But that, to me, was the biggest eye-opener, is seeing something like that go. We're not talking a B comp. We're talking like a Fin Zori. That in itself, and being able to use Wampa on that, is huge.
Hallelujah.
And
especially on something as strong as Zori that can essentially kill a GL. That's my biggest takeaway.
Really quick, there was also a Finn JTR Zori team beat as well with a Wampa, so it even beat the healing music.
Yeah.
Nice. I did that myself here for round 3, and it was there was almost a moment where I lost bonus protection, and that's about it. I mean, that level 3 Cron with the stacking protection does make it like that one set of old, It feels good to have Wampa back in charge. It was very exciting to have that option. More. Anything else, TJ?
Respect your Tuscans. Anybody who's got them, you need to understand and respect them. Defense and offense. A Tuscan will take out so many teams. It does so many good things with the Cron right now. And if you got him, and you've got him built correctly, they punch higher than you think they can. That's all I'm going to say about it.
For someone who has purple gear Tuscans and not like to have them done here by the end of the season. Let's just say. Which Datacron, which level 9 for the Tuscans is the one that you're using?
You can use 2, but a preference is to 1. The Tuscan Warrior level 9 is your best friend. It is ultra deadly. It has so many applications, and it's doing so many things. You play it wrong, you die. And that's on when they're on defense.
Gotcha.
On offense, it's gonna punch up. It takes out Zori. It takes out CLS. Anybody trying to gain TM, you're done for. And you only need 3 to take out so many things. It's ridiculous.
Awesome. Yeah. For me, guys, it was mostly about a couple things that I use for cleanups. So really going on what Dagger was saying earlier here, just the effectiveness of Trench. I wasn't inclined to set Trench on defense because I don't rely on the AI to make the right choices. And with a team like that, there's definitely a difference in, choosing to hold a special and using a basic, especially with something like Newt where you can push one of your cooldowns, ahead, stuff like that. I kept him for offense, and for rounds 1 and 2, for round 1, he just felt completely out of place. For the board that I'd set, for the situation I was in, really disappointed. I don't have Trenchcron for week 1. I do have it for this upcoming week, but yeah, it was kind of just, think of it as just like maybe a 3 and 6 that works, but that was about it. Anyway, I managed to take out Jabba's sides. I took out a Kersantin and a Bausch in round 2, and I think I was trying to use Troopers here, and I think it didn't work. I might be misremembering that because I also helped a couple people with that same fight. But the point is that on a 2-shot, a known 2-shot here for Jabba, went on in with Trench, Django, and Newt, and took out Jabba. And then here in round 3, I did the same against a lone Malgus. I did also, after I got him alone, I might have also been at the point where I fed another couple attempts into it just to make sure that he had his cooldowns and turn meter, low. So I was able to clean it up, but yeah, it was effective just seeing that it could be done, right? You have to just keep abusing Django, doing the fire sweep to take the max health off of Malgus. Oh yeah, speaking of other things for Malgus, I used JKR, Ezra, and Bastila against a lone Malgus, and even though you should be able to reduce max health from JKR, I must be missing something because that wasn't working. The JKR lead didn't seem to be reducing max health. And the other error I made was, if you didn't hear it when I said the team comp, I didn't take Mace, whose middle also chops down max health. That probably would have saved my bacon, but I've also heard... Go ahead.
The more you know, Jedi Revan's leadership only affects bonus protection, i.e. Nest, Treya. It doesn't actually do anything against protection,
though. I thought it does some... what's the condition under which he reduces max health?
Bonus protection.
If they have it. Only if they have it.
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's painful, guys. I mean, so it would have just been Mace there doing God's work. Which it probably, I have to tell you, it was pretty easy holding Malgus's cooldowns back at that point, just with JKR. So if we had Mace, probably would have worked out. I'm willing to say. All right, any other interesting notes on that? Because I think the next thing we'll cover is kind of what we took away from this week that we're applying for week 2. Before we go there, though, anything specific about just surprises that you encountered? Either of you.
Mace has not that we do power rankings or anything, but Mace has ascended in 3v3. Like, I think he's a 3v3 god. There's so many things that Shatterpoint just trivializes at this point. Now, I'm not saying you have to put him in your JMK or anything like that, but Bastila, Ezra, Mace kill. I don't remember what I killed. I killed something where I'm like, I don't know if this will work. And Mace's Shattered Point just did all the work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, it was a Mallet. A Mallet. Right? Just so many of these things. If you don't know how to beat it, Mace will eventually make it beatable.
That's true.
So just kind of piggybacking off that, he really shone. Man, and then as TJ said, that Tuscan team on defense is just.
Oh, sorry, you kind of cut out there.
Oh no, I just did a little fake cry.
Oh.
The Datacrons are just brutal. The Tuscan Datacrons are so good. The
Yeah.
Datacron level 9 from the center are so good. I beat the same rate you're talking about with Cal against an R7 Cal with the Mary Jane level 9 with the double damage.
Yeah, I don't have
even
double
hard.
damage. Week 1, it's tough.
That's what I'm saying. Like so much of this season seems to be. I'll leave more for the conclusion, but I'll just say like the Datacrons from this set are actually like more nuts than I think we thought.
No, this is as organic a time as any to bump over, unless TJ had any last surprises he wanted to cover.
It's not about surprises. It's just an unsettling realization. Basically, this was a relearning of GAC, in my opinion. Right? A lot of the time was spent with turn meter or speed, and you're now coming out of that setup and using off-the-wall comps and measures like Tuscans or Separatists are big right now, or these other team comps, and having to relearn everything again. Right? That's a new Datacron set, but all of the pieces coming together will make it very punishing if you're not willing to accept certain figures. Dagger made very good comments, and I know he'll talk about it, but not wanting to accept facts of what they are, it lets you know very quickly you're going to be punished for not taking that into account. Where I was not willing to listen, and it's like me running into the wall, where the wall's not going to budge, but you sure are going to fall back.
Yep. And this is the Wild West week, right? Like, not only is it the first week of the season where intel is less valuable, but also it's, first week of the new Datacron set. That's always going to be highly disruptive. And I think that brings us very well into our takeaways for week 2. So, yeah. Well, I know Dagger had some opening comments that I was going to end up branching out from. Go ahead. You had a couple things that you were ready to just blurt right out.
Oh yeah, just the as TJ said, it was a brick to the skull round 1 when you found out that shit, I actually have to go first organically. Right? There's no turn meter, there's no shenanigans. And then on top of that, you have these teams where it feels like your punch ups don't work anymore. So everything felt like you had to punch across or down. And when I say that, it means you have to like overkill. Mm-hmm. It felt so much like you had to almost overkill things. So if you tried to underkill them, they just had good level 9 data cards.
Yeah.
Or like they mentioned earlier with the level 6s on the Reba, like Treya doesn't work for the next 4 months because double damage just erases your team. Even if Treya would work in one world, right? It doesn't work in the world where GI erases your team with double damage.
Yep.
So I think we very clearly entered, at least for this next week, an efficiency loop where you have to save more than you set because there's so many teams. You only have one Wampa. You only have one of these, they're your cheap teams that punch up, right? But you only have so many of them, and they all feel so situational. Mace, you only have one Mace, right? So it's like you use it against Malgus to punch up, and then if you use that, how do you clean up? How do you clean up alone Java, right? Like, I'm rambling here, but it's these are the things that like I found myself wrapping my head around, sitting on streams. TJ was there for a lot of these too, just long discussions about what can you afford to use here. And it led to a lot of drops because people wanted to overhold things.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know what was in the back. Man. And I'll pass it off to these other two gentlemen. But yeah, that's basically my takeaway is just, man, it really feels like you can't set very much on defense these days in threes. Because if you get jammed up, that's 6-7 fights in, and all of a sudden you have nothing for the back.
It's true, and something that I end up having to use in tougher matches in threes, much more than I'd like. But having to do cooldown pulls because knowing with having a strong sense of what you've got, you aren't going to make that work if you have to take the full brunt of it up front. But you can clean it up, and if you're having to do that, here, just this last round, I lost by a clean like 30 banners. If I had like 31 more, I would have won, and that's a drop and a half, which was definitely. I would have saved more than that had I not taken a couple of those. I think I can make this work, but then it didn't work. Level risks, So yeah, no, save more than you set. Strong takeaway. Yeah, what a good point about what to do about Riva. Definitely not Treya. Okay, there are a couple different ways to deal with her, and do your scouting next week. I don't want to give too much of the sauce away. We're giving some good stuff, but yeah, there's a few different ways to handle Riva that are definitely not going to be your Darth Treya. We'll say that. Yeah. TJ, what you got? What you got? What are you taking away here for week 2?
All right, so I'm gonna do a mini rant to a point that's a reference of it. So with this new set, what CG did was what I would call a make good, but that make good is a first world problem for people when you're fighting in the top. Just flat out, it's resource management right now. When somebody has all of these new sets and you're coming in where you would be normally with these minimal amount of datacrons, you're just gonna run out, and that's a different world. Like somebody who's fighting somebody with mods versus somebody without, and it's those pieces that play into a piece where, for example, my last round, I had 1.1 million on my opponent. I couldn't clear a wall, not cleanly, and he deleted my whole board because the resource management was not there, and he overdid himself on datacrons as he should. That's not a complaint to anybody who does it. You do whatever you do, but I was at a just flat out disadvantage.
Yeah,
How
there are
did you
people
take
who went
advantage?
super hard for week 1, and yeah, we're not
I'm
one of
dissing
them.
them. So I was too close to the sun because of that situation where trying to play my normal way, where we talked about with daggers and what you're doing with those resources, where it's an overkill, where you have a better datacron than another person, you're gonna win. So it's these pieces that are really going to unfold as we're going through it. That shit can be just an advantage in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And just you have to relearn GAC right now. It's
Yep.
not the GAC that we've been seeing for so long. You're playing a different game. I spent more time this past week watching content creators, Task, others, and I would say I did many hours of homework to learn not only testing and testing with so many other like mom members and everybody else, but just watching and seeing what they're doing to see what works, and a lot to get to that point. I'm talking more hours than I'm happy to admit, but that's what was needed to try to get some kind of understanding.
I believe it,
level
man.
3, that level 3 to stack offense for both light side and dark side, man, I don't think people really grasp how strong it is.
It's big
It's
business.
undispellable buffs. And in threes, there are so many more turns being taken. Things just, and what TJ's kind of alluding to as well is the double damage level 6, and then you have the level 3. Like, I'm not saying this is set 2, right? I'm not trying to like go down that rabbit hole and rant about it. But I had Nuke randomly hit me for 82k. Why? Right?
That is fabulous.
Right? It's yeah, we're gonna learn, right? We're gonna learn how to beat some of these datacrons, etc. But like TJ said, the people who went to know datacrons, God bless their souls, got a bunch of free wins. That level 3 and that level 6 and that Tuscan level 9. The Mary Jade level 9 is absurd.
It is.
The Trench level 9 is absurd.
I'm looking forward to that.
Oh man.
I hear you.
Yeah, sorry, it's going to be fun.
No, it's going to be a fun next week for sure. I guess my last couple thoughts that I'd leave everybody with for week 2 is considering the end of Qui-Gon Jinn on defense. Now that's not new. I think that's been trending here for the last couple of seasons, but I think this is probably closing in on the end for me. You know, the fact is like Dagger had mentioned it earlier that people will save Newt Jango B1 and figure out a different trench team to make sure that they have that counter if they see somebody who's reliably setting Qui-Gon on defense. And I mean, if you just put any amount of armor with the Kron, you're virtually guaranteed to have that succeed. It's just like 56 banners, like something like that. And it's just not worth it to have such an explosive powerhouse squandered on defense at this point. I mean, you can't rely on even like a strong armor penetration Kron on your Qui-Gon to make that kind of difference. So I think I'm just going to be using it as a cudgel going forward, with limited exception, I think. And then the last thing is, not everybody's going in on Kron. So to kind of expand on Dagger saying that in an efficiency meta, you want to save the bulk of your might for offense to make sure that you've got every reasonable tool to clear a pretty strong board. Particularly so if your opponent has datacrons, because the extra layer that adds over somebody's game that wouldn't necessarily have datacrons is the ability to elevate teams to be at near or equal power to a galactic legend, especially in 3 vs 3 where you have 2 less characters than your typical Grand Arena mode, and you are the power of individual kits is magnified when there are less kits on the board. So I guess what I'm coming around to saying there is that lean into your Krons for your lesser teams for defense, leaving those as puzzles for your opponents to toy with. What are the new mechanics introduced from the Krons? Presents a better threat for a potential drop because they want to experiment, or at the very least, it's going to strip a banner or two just because of its novelty. So that's just something to think about there for the next week, and I might revise that for week 3. We'll see how it goes. That's it for my final thoughts, but let's go ahead and have the guys. We've been hitting Dagger all the way through on the way. Let's hit TJ. Any final thoughts here before we close up shop?
Yeah, final thought. We're in for one hell of a ride. This set. Final thought.
It's good. I really like the new set, but yes. All right, Dagger.
This set hurts, and I mean that literally. So much damage, so much offense, and then we alley Mommy eat it. That's my takeaway. Okay,
so lots and lots of datacrons. Yeah, guys. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. I'll put in chapters here when I add this up to YouTube. Have it available for you guys. Here within a couple of hours. But thank you both, Dagger and TJ. We've been working to try and get this first episode started for a few seasons now, but we finally got it done. It's a few minutes longer than we wanted, but guess what? It's still going to be under 35 minutes, so nowhere near as bad as it could have been, because we all know we could have expanded on this forever. But once again, thank you both so much for coming. We'll be doing more of these. I think we're going to be trying to do it weekly. Until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.